Have you seen this video of a man flipping out in the airport?
The Epstein files have been released, and all of y'all are acting normal. All of y'all are acting normal.
Well, really because
All of y'all are acting normal.
they might have lost their goddamn mind.
Fucking airport is acting normal.
Everybody's calling.
No, you shut the fuck up.
Oh, wait, don't say nothing.
Because the Epstein files, what I'm reading, and everybody in this room can read. If you go to Google right now, everybody in this room can read. They are eating babies. They are trafficking children. And if you think for a second any fucking thing in your life matters, you are on the fucking wrong side of history. You are on the fucking wrong side of history. It don't matter about this flight. It don't matter about who in this fucking airport.
Look, I'm just going to say it. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And the people that he's flipping out on, they're not wrong either. They're not wrong because what are they supposed to do about it? Is our world run by a small group of well-connected PDF files? Maybe. And those PDF files seem to be being protected by the current administration. Other countries are taking it more seriously. Why can't we take it seriously in this country? That's wild, huh? That we can't seem to take this seriously, but other countries can. Now, this is called an ontological crisis, and it happens when a person's foundational beliefs, everything that they consider to be true and real, collapse, and basically they go into a complete glitch in reality. A reality glitch, they call it. And this is the opposite of ontological security, which was coined by R.D. Laing, which is that stable sense of self and reality. And an ontological crisis happens when that collapses. A lot of people are seeing in action what was once labeled as conspiracies, and it's normal for them to spiral. If Epstein Island is true and people in the know lied about it, well, what else is true? What else are they keeping from us? These are all valid questions, and there's no one in power with the moral authority to put people at ease. Of course, they could tell the truth, but they're not going to do that. Some of the most shocking emails to me are these ones about beef jerky. Now, it looks to me like they're not talking about jerky, but Snopes fact checks say that they are. They spoke to Epstein's former chef, Francis Derby, who used to work at this restaurant called Cannibal, not even kidding, and he said that they were really talking about jerky. Now, Cannibal seems like a fine restaurant, but this looks really bad. Now, remember this clip from a Mexican model who claimed the elite are eating people? She was never heard from again. What happened to her? Now, there's not a definitive link, and she could be alive and well and laying low, but we haven't heard anything. I see why this man was crashing out at the airport. That's all I'm saying. A lot of people are about to go down a very dark but necessary path and learn about the forces that may be controlling many of our institutions. Even the biggest skeptic doesn't think good people are controlling the institutions. The public has known about corruption since Mr. Smith goes to Washington, but this is different. This is the next level. Now, this path could include a few or many of the conspiracy theories listed on the conspiracy chart. Remember that? This chart puts world run by shadow elite in the detached from reality category, but it's not looking so detached right now. This is a famous chart published in the Boston Globe to explain all of those pesky conspiracy theorists, but it's looking like the people who believe that there was no conspiracy are the ones detached from reality. Everything, and I mean everything in this chart is up for debate now. This chart is basically a joke. Now, anti-Semitism is absolutely real, but believing in the Illuminati or the deep state doesn't make you anti-Semitic. It's not the same thing. These files show that Epstein and men in high positions of power were discussing torture videos and human trafficking. The files imply a lot more than that. Nevertheless, a lot of the stuff that's disseminating online right now has been altered. It's been altered to make it seem worse than it is. going through Twitter. I know I said I'd be off of Twitter, but for this, I went back on and I'm trying to figure out what is real and what is not. And of what I see, if they say this is from the Epstein files, this is from the Epstein files, it's not actually there or it's been altered. And now one reason this could be, I'm not saying for a fact that it is, but it could be that people who don't want us knowing what's in those files are purposely launching a disinformation campaign to confuse the public and make it seem like all of the bad stuff you see coming out of those files is fake. Also, there are fake pictures going around, like this one with Epstein and Oprah, and rumors that her plane landed on the island 11 times, but that's not confirmed. Who started that rumor and why? And who made this picture? Oprah already has problematic associations. Why make this one up? Do you think it's a troll or it's a psyop? However, if you do go to the Department of Justice, you can find some really disturbing stuff that comes straight from the horse's mouth. I've gone down many a Epstein rabbit hole, and it all ends with me texting my husband, yo, so was Pizzagate real? They had something there, wasn't it? The Pizzagate was real, wasn't it? And then I'm like, that's too much. That's too much. You can't flip out at an airport like this guy because you got things to do. I have things to do. I got a toddler that needs to eat. I got a house that needs to run. I got deadlines on projects. I can't stop my whole life to deal with this. It would be nice. It would be nice if we can, and we really should be able to, because this is like Watergate times 5. However, we can't. But a few important things to know. One, you got to distinguish between emails and tips that have come in. Now, the problem here is that a lot of these tips that have come in, they were not investigated. In fact, when Pam Bondi went in front of Congress, showed her whole, that was embarrassing for everybody to watch, but they asked the survivors, hey, have you been interviewed by the Department of Justice?
Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them.
None of them have been interviewed. So if the survivors haven't been interviewed, why should we think that they have investigated any of these tips that have come into the FBI? So already you are just confusing people. You're adding to this chaos of what is known, what is not known, what is true, what is not true. And how are we supposed to know that? So this man flipping out at the airport against all of these people, yelling at all of these people, why aren't you doing anything? What are they supposed to do? These people aren't even flying private. They're flying commercial. Most of them coach. What are they supposed to do? I would love to be able to do something. Tell me what I can do. I'll do it. But there's nothing that can be done. Our representatives are doing their best in Congress, passing bills that say you have to release these files, trying to question Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi, I know you guys are not going to like this, but I don't see that she could have done any better unless she was just going to apologize for doing a horrible job. She should have resigned before she walked into that room because that was embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
Why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Girl, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the Epstein files, which you said you had on your desk. But if you did have them on your desk would collapse because 3.5 million files is a lot of files. So you were lying. They made this whole campaign promise to release the files and then completely went back on it. Kash Patel revealed as clout chaser. You know what I mean? What Americans are seeing right now is not only have our institutions shown basically almost collapse, because who are these respected individuals that we're supposed to look up to? And they were all going to Epstein Island. Those people have shown that they are unworthy of us having any faith in them whatsoever. And then the next level, the Kesh Patels, the Dan Bonginos, these outsiders that were going to come into Washington and really, really shake things up. Well, what happened? You can't even call it conspiracy anymore, because who was named as one of Epstein's co-conspirators? Les Wexner. For those of you who don't know, he used to run Victoria's Secret. And if you are of a certain age, if you're like 30 or over, you know exactly what Victoria's Secret meant to young women back in the day. It was basically the yardstick by which we were all judged. Are you thin enough? Are you thin enough? That was it. Are you thin enough and can you put enough makeup on? Then that's basically what you were judged by. So this man, who was an Epstein co-conspirator, psyoped an entire generation of young millennial women. Les Wexner was named as a potential co-conspirator, but he denies all claims. He says he cut ties with Epstein and he kept the relationship professional. Now, he testified to this effect before Congress last week.
Yes, they was being conned. Never, ever. The deceit was so subtle.
And his lawyer was caught on a hot mic saying he'd kill him if he gave an answer longer than 5 words. Supposedly, the lawyer was joking.
Answer the question. 5 words, okay?
Look, they are never beating these conspiracy charges. I do not care how much they deny and fact check these claims. Look at this C-SPAN headline. I just never thought. And I don't necessarily believe the Wexner denial. Reading through this Reddit thread, basically the Wexner Foundation paid 92% of the cost to build Epstein's private lodge on a children's arts camp. And it also gave Epstein access to the kids. So I know this happened before his charges. Nevertheless, this is really shady. I will link it at the bottom. Was Victoria's Secret a psyop from child sex traffickers to make young women strive for a prepubescent body? Because that's how it looks. It may be an innocent coincidence, but it's best to ignore all marketing of this type just to be on the safe side. Did he have ulterior motives? If we're going to go really, really into conspiracy, really, really into mind control, basically he was programming women to give away their power, to believe that they were less important and less beautiful than they really, really were. And in doing so, give their power away to him in the form of money for the clothes or their self-esteem, so that this dirty old man and his dirty old man gang become the arbiters of what woman is worthy, at least in the mainstream. Of course, people are spiraling. However, I will tell you why I am not. So basically, I still have the same problems from before the Epstein files release. Like, it's not any easier for me to get a doctor. Mortgages haven't come down. The housing hasn't increased. There's not more jobs in the job market. Everyone that I know still has the same problems as before Epstein file drop. So what does this do for me? Now, I hope all of these people go to jail forever and ever. I hope for worse, but our Constitution forbids it. But you know what? Our Constitution allows for a lot of stuff, and we could do that. So I know we're not allowed to have the fun that we want with these people. Let's just put it like that. However, we can do a lot of things. We could at least prosecute them. I don't see why we're not doing that, because look, these guys are old. I'm sorry, but they've lived their lives. You know what I mean? They got away with most of what they're going to get away with. Noam Chomsky, can you believe that? I've been over Noam Chomsky since the whole vaccine thing, the whole COVID thing. Noam Chomsky was a close associate of Epstein's. He's not named in the crimes, but why was he friends with a convicted PDF file? Lapse in judgment just isn't good enough here. Deepak Chopra as well. He's supposed to be some wise guru, but he's run by his animal urges. He says God is a construct, but young girls are real. This man was a thought leader, but he seems more motivated by what's in his pants. All those people who have been following his spiritual teachings just had the rug pulled out from under them. He's not a wise teacher. He is a dirty old man. 70 years old already when he sent this email. Why should we really care what happens to a dirty old man? They've lived their lives. So this idea that if we prosecute these people, the whole of the country is going to just crumble. Oh yeah, like they were doing such a great job running this country before. Look, I don't know if it's a group of perverted PDF files or if it's a eyes wide shut cult making sacrifices to Moloch. I don't know. If they are making sacrifices to Moloch, Moloch's not coming through for me. Tim Dillon had this really great bit of, we're sacrificing to Baal. That's the market, the 50,000 thing. I'm gonna murder that bit. So I'm not even gonna try to do it. But I don't have stocks like that. I'm a millennial. I don't have all these things. So what do I care if this generation of old people goes down? I don't care. I'm young. I'm trying to make my way in this world. I got kids. I don't need the whole system collapsing when they're just about to come into the world. I don't care if all these boomers go down. I don't see why the young people should suffer for all these boomers. I think these boomers should get exactly what they deserve. Don't care about them. And they clearly don't care about us. In this humble YouTuber's opinion, we as a country have let way too many criminals get away with their crimes, and I don't know how morale can get any lower. Remember in 2008 when a small group of sociopathic bankers collapsed the economy and suffered no consequences? There were consequences for the savings and loan conspiracy. Why not in 2008? Oh yeah, and remember when COVID may have gotten out of a lab and damaged a whole generation, devalued the dollar and turned families against each other? What happened with that? How many times is this going to happen? Prosecute them. So the mob wants its pound of flesh. Give it to them. That's called justice, and we haven't seen it for 30 years now. For real, it seems like the government hates us. So there are a few things that are bothering me, and you can call this conspiratorial, or you can just say, yeah, no, you're right. And that's way worse than that. It's way worse than that. One, I do believe he is still alive because of this memo from the Justice Department that is dated the day before he supposedly died, announcing his death. Now, perhaps they simply put the wrong date on the memo. You know, they could have made a mistake and put the wrong date on the memo. Or they could have gotten a little ahead of themselves and he's still alive living in Israel somewhere. So I think a lot of people have to answer a lot of questions. And back to the main point of this video. There are a lot of people in the public who, one, didn't suspect this, didn't believe that it was true, and had never been exposed to these kind of things before. And now that they're seeing it, they could be in shock, in complete shock. They could be in denial, or they could be losing their minds, like this guy in the airport. I don't think that there is a wrong way to go about this. I think this is much worse than Watergate. This is the biggest conspiracy, the biggest scandal we may ever see in our lifetimes. Fingers crossed, because doesn't that come up every 2 years? This is the biggest one we've seen in our lifetime. This is the biggest one we've seen in our lifetime. Every 2 years, it's the biggest one we've seen in our lifetime. Can we just slow it down a little? Oh God, I'm glad I moved to the middle of nowhere. I'm just going to tell my kids. Stuff got really crazy for a while, and we moved you here because it seemed sane. And then I'm going to have to lecture them about the Calhoun rat videos and explain to them what Bohemian Grove is and Skull and Bones and the bloodlines theory and who is Moloch? Why would we sacrifice children to Moloch? Not you, but other children. Disinformation campaigns, all these things I'm going to have to say to my kids one day. It's just like, all right. I don't think there's a wrong way to be handling this. I don't think there's a wrong way to handle it. As long as you feed your family, take care of your house, don't let your job down, especially if you run your own business. Do not let your own business down. If you want to let these corporate PDF files down, that's none of my business. Anyway, tell me where you are on the Epstein files. Are you this guy yelling at everybody at the airport, or are you these people who are just like, why is he yelling at me? I can't do anything. I'm flying coach right now. I'm on standby. You let me know in the comments.